Right. Then let me just get started. I'm very happy to moderate this session on energy storage now. I'm Jannis Beutel, a researcher at the Wuppertal Institute and a member of the Secretariat for Coal Regions in Transition. First of all, I'd like to remind you about the housekeeping. So we have translation that you can use via the app, either here in the room or also online, and we will at least have one intervention also in Spanish, so be prepared. And second, for an introduction to the topic, as some of you might know, we had a session on of the district heating working group yesterday already. This is also part of the Initiative for Coal Regions in Transition. And as we knew that this is going to be, that this is a session on energy storage on this day, we tried to put all the content related to energy storage, which is also relevant for district heating decarbonization, to this day. But unfortunately, this really didn't work out as planned because, as you can imagine, also energy storage is very, very important for district heating systems, for the decarbonization of that sector, and also especially because we had a very interesting example about a project in Haarlem in the Netherlands, where they use the mine water as an energy storage in the old shafts from the mine, which I think is a great example also how they put it up locally, how they invented this model basically and put it up to a full 5th-generation district heating system. The Secretariat will prepare a case study about this, so that was just a teaser that you can read more about that in a bit on our website. But let's now introduce you to this session, and I'm very happy that we have a keynote speech now of Mrs. Mechthild Wörsdorfer, the Deputy Director General of DG Energy. And yeah, warm welcome, and I would like to come on stage for your keynote session. Thank you.
So thank you very much. First of all, welcome to the panelists, and also welcome to all the participants of this session. It's a pleasure to be here today and give the introductory speech to the important topic of energy storage and what kind of opportunity it is for coal and carbon-intensive region. Before I go into the subject, I want to use the opportunity to congratulate Mr. Kulanek, who is here with us, who is the governor of the Karlovy Vary region in the Czech Republic, and for the Karlovy Vary Annual Policy Dialogue Statement. Long words. But the main point here is that we had a very good annual dialogue in 2023 in June in your region, together with my commissioner, Katri Simpson. And we very much welcome the initiative and the gathering you put together with politicians, policymakers, practitioners, stakeholders from many EU coal, but also peat, lignite and oiled shale regions, what we call coal plus region, and support all of them on this transition to a just and clean transition. So I think the initiative was really able to shape a strong community of coal plus region and to unite the efforts to phase out fossil fuel, which is the long-term goal, and decarbonize their economies, while we are also keeping a look on the social side, on the societal aspects of that transition. So it's great that the bottom-up approach from your region and the community developed this statement, and we from the European Commission, representing also my commissioner, is very happy to provide the space for presenting it and allowing it to sign it for the other region. So this will happen right after this session, but I already wanted to thank you and your team for this preparation of the statement and the successful event you had organized, bringing everyone together in June this year. So I come back to the topic of the Just Transition platform, which also aims to bring together all the stakeholders, and I'm happy to see many of them here. So you probably have heard the Executive Vice President, Mr. Šefčovič, this morning. The coal phase-out in the EU is undisputed. Last winter, coal power fell by 11% and gas by 13%. At the same time, 2022 was a record year for renewables, both wind and solar power. Obviously, after the energy crisis we had triggered by the invasion of Russia and Ukraine, we have seen a lot of happening on one side, that we need to decrease our dependence from gas, and in particular Russian gas from coal, but also we have seen high energy prices. So whatever we can do to now speed up the clean energy transition, work on energy efficiency, and this is important. This is important in particular also for coal regions in transition and for the initiative, which was the initiator of this journey. And we speak, as I said already, for the particular region in Czech Republic, of the coal plus region in the transition to a low carbon economy. We have seen that the community has been growing, and it's a key and a cornerstone of our European Green Deal. We, as the EU, Europe, have decided together to become carbon neutral by 2050. It's a long journey. We are 2023. We have just also agreed on ambitious step for 2030. But the main point here that the gradual elimination of the use of fossil fuel is going hand in hand with increasing share of renewable sources, energy efficiency, storage, and sector integration. So, what about the storage? Why do we need storage? I think we have an energy system in the future which have intermittency of wind and solar. So the question of flexibility between demand and supply, stability of the system, but also reliability with the grids are becoming even more important. And when we look at what is possible in order to balance the system for this flexibility, we have on one side, with electrification, we need more electricity interconnections. We are seeing a lot of renewable projects, but some cannot be developed because the grid connection is missing. So this is also another aspect we are working on. Then we need a good combination of different sources in the electricity mix that can vary between member states. I was this morning, for example, at a hydropower event. So hydropower, for the country who have it, is something to balance the system and store it. Others have other means to do that. Important also not only to look at the supply side, but also at the demand side. And also out of the crisis, energy crisis, we have seen what more is possible also on the demand side, how to reduce demand or how to be more energy efficient. And we have various forms of energy storage. And these can help to decarbonize and electrify the economy, but also to reduce the electricity price volatility in the peak hours, and last but not least, have a bigger role for consumer, empower our consumer to adapt the consumption when there is more supply. And I think this is really something where we all are aware of, and that shows the importance of energy storage, both at EU level and the member states. And that's why all the projects, and I'm sure we can hear more in the panel afterwards, all the projects in the region can be a perfect fit in these coal plus regions in transition, as they are well equipped with a tradition, knowledge, skills, space, and the grid infrastructure. And also to underline that significant funds are in fact available for storage projects under the Just Transition Fund, which is 400 million euro, which has already been dedicated to smart energy systems and storage projects in the EU coal and carbon intensive regions. So there's no clean energy transition without the possibility of energy storage. 2 more words, what we have done on the regulatory side. So very recently, or in March, we have proposed our electricity market design package. Recently, our 27 EU member states agreed on their position, on their general approach, and now we are in negotiation between the Parliament and the Council, and hopefully, with the Spanish presidency support, we get an agreement. Why I'm mentioning it? Electricity market design, our proposal, is really to reward flexibility and storage. This is one of the core objectives for this electricity market design. So the member states need to assess the power system in terms of flexibility, develop key indicators, and also in that sense, accelerate the deployment of renewables into the grids. We have also other measures in that proposal, and one of them is to require a national assessment of the flexibility needs for at least 5 years, followed by an establishment by member states of objectives to increase non-fossil flexibility, again via demand response and storage. And also member states will have the possibility to introduce new support schemes dedicated to non-fossil flexibility. This proposal, as I said, is a top priority for the Spanish presidency, but also for the Commission. So together with the Parliament, we hope to conclude by the end of the year, so the new measures come into place as soon as possible. Together with our proposal in March, we had a dedicated paper, a recommendation on energy storage. And that covers areas like regulatory barriers. We are well aware there are still barriers which we have to overcome. One of them is the permit granting. Permitting is an issue across the energy system, be it for renewables project, whatever, hydropower, solar, wind, be it for grids, but also for storage. So we are pushing our member states, and we have also some best practice where we can learn from each other. So this is really key. Also, that member states should consider energy storage as part of the grid planning. Often the grid is planned, the electricity network, but not the storage at the same time. So have a more system approach here. And obviously, a third element is financing. So we have addressed that in our recommendation. We are looking at manufacturing capacities in the EU. We have different technologies. We want also to develop them, and we acknowledge that this is also a need for production within Europe. That's a priority, and with our research and innovation programs. Speaking about the technologies, there are various storage. We speak about very short term, but we also speak about monthly or even seasonal storage. So I think we need both the short-term solution, but also the long-term as pumped hydro, compressed air and conversion technology and others. For us, what kind of technology? We are neutral, technology neutral. We think there are needed to be further developed, and we need really innovative energy solution and projects, and they have a potential also in the coal and carbon intensive regions. So we need to match demand and supply. We need more storages for short term and for long term, and we need to look that these investments are really coming in the regions when their investment needed. There is EU funding, but that is not sufficient. We need private funding as well, but we want to make sure that no one is left behind, so that is needed to everyone can participate in that transition, and we are giving some EU financing, but also technical support. The just transition for us means supporting and investing in activities to low carbon and climate resilient activities in member states and in regions that are now the most carbon intensive, but in the future leading by example. And that can create employment, upskilling opportunities for people in other sectors than fossil fuels. Only by cooperating together between the regions, between the member states, between the stakeholders, between industry, with the Commission, we can achieve together these ambition goals. Thank you very much for your attention and looking forward to the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Vossdorfer, for these powerful statements also, and giving that perspective, and also the forward-looking words for the legislation that is very much needed. I would now like to introduce you to the panel, and first invite Mr. Philipp Offenberg on stage, who's Senior Manager at Breakthrough Energy. And second, he's the head of Public Sector Energy Efficiency Coordination Department of the Center for Research and Technology, HELAS, Mr. Panagiotis Kramelis. Next, we have the Director of ESS Europe, Mr. Alan Greenshields. Welcome. And Mr. Emerito Freis Zambade, from the Regional Government of Galicia, also welcome to the stage. And last but not least, Mr. Rainer Schiller from the energy company LEOC. He's the Senior Manager there. So as you can see, and apologize for this all much male panel, we try to do that less, but now we have to deal with it. So, my first question goes out to Mr. Offenberg. So, Breakthrough Energy is particularly active in the funding and developing of energy technologies, right? So, including also the storage. So, my question would be, which innovative energy storage technologies are most suited for coal and carbon-intensive regions?
Yeah, thank you very much. Also, thanks for hosting this panel on energy storage, which I think is important that we have this discussion here. And I think there's a slide. Yeah, brilliant. So at Breakthrough Energy, we're particularly looking into what is called long-duration energy storage. And Mechthild has made this intro. There are different durations. We've just taken kind of the executive decision that long-duration storage means 8-hour plus for us. And the reason why we believe in this technology is that we see a lot of system benefits from these type of technologies. So we ran 2 studies with Aurora Energy Research, one focusing on the German market, one on the Spanish market. And the results were pretty clear that if you deploy significant amounts of these technologies, you essentially reduce system costs. So in Germany, we found out it will be about 24 billion euros less between 2025 and 2045. You reduce renewable curtailment. In Germany, the number was, I think, 30%. You also need less hydrogen in the power sector. So those are kind of the reasons why we support these technologies, because it's a good way to build renewable baseload capacity. Yeah? So renewables plus energy storage. On the slide, you see the 4 different families, so to say, of these technologies. I will say in a minute which ones we believe are very suited for coal regions. But let's start here from the left with electrochemical. Yeah, so those are typically batteries, but we're not talking here about lithium ion, but really about technologies that can store electricity for a longer time, so provide bulk storage and can store electricity for much longer than lithium, and thus are more scalable as a technology class. I'm not going into detail here because we have Alan Greenshields from ESS on the panel, and he can say much more about it. And there's actually one project in a coal region in Eastern Germany that Alan and Rainer Schiller from LEAG will talk about. So the next one is thermal storage. And these are technologies that can store electricity intraday or multi-day. There's one company that Breakthrough Energy Ventures is invested in. We have several ones, but one example is a company that's called Malta, which is US-based. And their technology takes electricity from the grid and then converts it to thermal energy. and stores it in molten salt for about 10 to 20 hours. That means when the power is needed back on the grid, the energy is then reconverted into electricity. This one is also under discussion in one coal region in Asturias. So there's a coal plant that has one unit that's still running, and the discussion there is to replace that coal unit with renewables and one of these Malta units. There, I think it's a good fit because in that region there is still a lot of grid infrastructure. So the grid connection to the plant is still there. There's space, and this makes really this Malta technology quite suitable there. Mechanical storage is the next category. I think Mechtild has talked about pumped hydro. Obviously, even if you have pumped hydro, you cannot expand it easily. So there's not that much space in most member states to build additional ones. We're invested in one company that can actually store hydro power underground. So they pump the water under the ground in a reservoir, and then it's stored between rock layers at high pressure. The company is called Quidnet. And then when the electricity is needed, it's simply released upwards, and there's a hydroelectric turbine that generates power. So that's another type of long-duration storage. This one we haven't yet brought into discussion in coal regions. I don't know if it's particularly suitable. And the last family, of course, is chemical storage. I don't need to talk much about it. It's mostly hydrogen, ammonia, e-fuels. So burning of these and then using that as a power source. So that's quite straightforward. The thermal technology is, as I said, under discussion in the Spanish coal region. The ESS technology is currently under discussion in the German coal region. So these are, I think, two that we believe very much are suitable. But again, we, of course, work with a lot of innovators. So not only companies that we're invested in ourselves, but really with a broad community of startups. And I can only call on any utility or coal regions that are here in the room. If there's interest in deployment of some sort of new storage technology in your region or in your utility, please approach me after the session. We're happy to talk about that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Offenberg, and also for this overview of the technologies. And as I understand, it's still like very much in the flow. There are a lot of new technologies still arising, so we can expect a lot of new developments there. And so over to Mr. Gramilis. So in Greece, there you already have a lot of also community energy, but also generally a lot of renewable energy already. So, but what are the main storage options that are considered there, and especially also in Western Macedonia? And what are also criteria for selecting the appropriate technologies?
Thank you very much also for hosting and inviting us to present now the demand side, what will be needed in Greece and specifically for Western Macedonia. So as you correctly mentioned, Greece is performing very well about the renewables. We're the fourth more prolific country for renewables growth in Europe, in EU. And as such, the current government has realized a plan for energy storage options and how this energy storage demand will be needed in order to maintain the situation for renewables growth and the grid stability. So at the moment we have about 700 megawatt storage plants, 2 open-loop pumped hydro and 2 small hybrid RES storage stations. Well presented before about pumped hydro. The hybrid RES is mostly on the islands we have. And this sums up about 700 mega, and you will see that in our National Energy and Climate Action Plan, this will be one order of scale higher. The target is to reach 7 gigawatt in 2030, and it is much higher than the initial target. And the reason is to achieve the renewables growth. We already we already meet the target for 2030, and the target now is to produce 80% renewable electricity by 2030. So there is no single technology selected because there are several criteria to select the appropriate technology. This has to do with technical, economic performance. And so in our plan as a country, we are dealing with batteries and hydro and hydrogen. These are the three technologies selected based on the design. And about Western Macedonia, there is an ambitious plan to have an alternative energy hub according to our territorial plan. And this is because we have the land there, we have the existing high voltage power grid infrastructure and the existing labor knowledge. We have people working, we have heard about the reskilling and upskilling of people. And so people that used to work in the power sector, they could be upskilled in order to work for the energy storage. And also we have the areas, the exhausted mining areas, in which storage integration and with plant PV parks will be installed. So what is the need? As presented before about the technologies, there are technical challenges to be met. And some substantial support on innovation and research is needed in order to have further development and market upgrade, and grid integration and efficiency and performance remain the significant obstacles to overcome. There are also some challenges about the legal framework that is everywhere, but also in our case, we need to further develop and of course, facilitate license and financing because they are very capital-intensive projects. And a second slide that I have prepared, we talked very much about people. This Just Transition Fund mechanism is very close to people. So we have the thermal storage, as mentioned. We have district heating in West Macedonia, and at the moment it's covered by fossil fuel. It's fossil fuel dependent because we use waste heat from power plants. So the target is to use thermal storage combined with renewables. Also, in this case, we have a study funded by EBRD, so another mechanism to fund studies, because this was discussed in the previous session. And in this study, we try to investigate different options compared to the storage and renewables, how to have solar panels and pits or heat pumps, and to have the appropriate choice of the technology for thermal storage. So when talking about energy storage, we have electric storage, but also thermal storage, as presented in the previous technology, is the same important, especially for people now that the energy costs have risen up.
Yeah, thank you. You can hand the microphone over to Mr. Fred Zambade. Next question is for you. Because now we heard the situation from Greece, but in the Spanish region of Galicia, is also very well positioned for the development and implementation of energy storage and renewable energy. So could you tell us a little bit more about your climate objectives and also about how you plan to achieve them?
Muchas gracias, sobre todo a la Plataforma de Transición Justa, por brindarnos la oportunidad de poder mostrarles aquí a todos ustedes los proyectos en los que estamos trabajando en Galicia. Galicia, como pueden ver ustedes ahí en la diapositiva, está situada al noroeste de la península ibérica, estamos bañados por el Océano Atlántico, gestionamos fondos de transición justa en proyectos tractores que tienen que tener impacto económico y social positivo. Muchos de estos proyectos están en el campo de las energías renovables, en el campo de la eficiencia energética, en el desarrollo de infraestructuras para poder interconectar todas estas energías renovables y también en proyectos de economía circular. El sector energético de nuestra región tiene una serie de fortalezas, es decir, tenemos gran capacidad para transformar energía. De hecho, transformamos aproximadamente el 10% de toda la energía primaria que se transforma en España. Debido a nuestra situación geográfica, somos uno de los principales puntos de entrada y salida de productos energéticos a la península ibérica, fundamentalmente petróleo y gas. Debido a la orografía y a nuestras condiciones climáticas, disponemos de un alto potencial de energías renovables. Parte de este potencial ya se está aprovechando en la actualidad y todavía desarrollaremos en los próximos años mucho más potencial. sobre todo en el
One
campo
second, one
de
interruption,
la
sorry.
hidráulica.
Can you take the microphone a bit closer?
Sí,
Yes, that helps
sí,
with the audio.
disculpen.
Outside. Thank you.
Como estaba diciéndoles, tenemos una serie de fortalezas desde el punto de vista energético. Somos una región con una gran capacidad para transformar energía. De hecho, transformamos aproximadamente el 10% de toda la energía primaria que se transforma en España. Debido a nuestra situación geográfica, somos uno de los principales puntos de entrada y salida de productos energéticos a la península ibérica, fundamentalmente petróleo y gas. Debido a las condiciones climáticas y a nuestra orografía, tenemos un elevado potencial de energías renovables. Parte de este potencial ya se está aprovechando en la actualidad, como verán en la parte baja ahora de la diapositiva, y otras se aprovecharán en el futuro. Y sobre todo, como podrán ver también, tenemos un parque de generación energético muy diversificado. Tenemos sobre todo energía eólica, energía hidráulica y biomasa. Pero también tenemos debilidades, y estas debilidades fundamentalmente se deben a que tenemos una dependencia energética del exterior del orden del 63%. Esta dependencia energética hace aproximadamente unos 5 o 6 años todavía era superior, era cerca del 70%. Y tenemos baja capacidad de almacenamiento, solamente tenemos 381 megavatios de bombeo reversible hidráulico para poder integrar energías renovables. En Galicia llevamos ya muchos años trabajando en una economía verde, en una economía baja en carbono, con dos pilares de nuestra política energética: las energías renovables y el ahorro y la eficiencia energética. Y casi, si me permiten, yo diría primero eficiencia energética y después renovables, porque tenemos que tener siempre presente que la energía más barata y la energía más limpia es aquella que no se consume. Europa está a la vanguardia de las políticas de energía y clima y tenemos unos objetivos muy ambiciosos de cara al año 2050. Fundamentalmente, como pueden ver ustedes ahí en pantalla, que toda la electricidad, todo el sistema de generación de energía eléctrica sea 100% renovable y reducir prácticamente a menos del 90% con respecto al año 90 las emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero. Para cumplir estos objetivos, Galicia tiene unos objetivos ya muy ambiciosos ahora en el horizonte 2030. Y estos objetivos los pueden ver ustedes ahí en pantalla. Es que el 90% de la electricidad que se va a generar en Galicia en el año 2030 va a ser de origen renovable. Vamos a reducir un 55% con respecto al año 1990 las emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero. Y queremos reducir la dependencia energética actual, que es del orden del 63%, al 39%. Si pueden ver, en la parte inferior de la pantalla, si comparamos la generación de energía eléctrica del año 2015 con la generación de energía eléctrica prevista para el año 2030, pueden ver que todo lo que se generaba con carbón, que eran 1.960 megavatios, va a ser cero en el año 2030, ya en este momento. Y sobre todo, un dato muy importante: vamos a duplicar las energías renovables. Vamos a pasar del orden de unos 7.000 megavatios en potencia a 14.000 megavatios, y en generación de energía eléctrica también se va a duplicar, de 17.500 gigavatios hora año a 34.227 gigavatios hora año. Gracias.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Fred Zambade, also for these very impressive numbers of renewable energy development in Spain. And I think this is also a very good example of how you can take off and like have ambitious objectives and try to really level up in a fast way. So now to my two remaining participants on the panel, Mr. Greenshields and Mr. Schiller actually will address you now together, because you also work together, right, on innovative energy projects. With that also includes some storage. projects with green hydrogen and power to gas. And so my first question now would go to Mr. Schiller. Actually, two questions. So why did you choose Saxony for your project, and why have you joined forces? And are there potentials also for other coal and carbon-intensive regions to scale up the technologies that you have developed?
Okay, thank you. It was 3 questions, but
yeah, actually 3 questions.
Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to present our project here. Yeah, as said, in Saxony, LEAG as total is operating in the Luzicia. This is a region close to Poland, operating 4 power plants and related coal mines, open cast, with a total installation of 8 gigawatt of power installed. After the coal phase out, we have the challenge to transfer the energy generation, because our DNA is energy generation. And for sure, we are also the largest employer in the region and have also a social responsibility there. So this was the point why we have to transfer and why we have to do some things. So the solution is more or less to use the potential we have in the region and to install renewables, hydrogen and storage assets. So it sounds simpler as it is, but this was the idea. We created different teams in LEAG, which was dedicated to storage, then 1 team for renewables and 1 team for hydrogen. So the task was to find solutions for the different streams, how we can solve the issue and how we can remain a reliable supplier of 24/7 green energy after the coal phase out. So we have to understand the coal phase out is planned stepwise. So we have to replace also stepwise the coal-fired power plants. So this means until 2030, we have to install 7 gigawatt of renewables. We want to install 2 gigawatt on storage to 2030 and 0.5 for hydrogen applications, so mainly electrolyzer. How we have this done? So the first was looking on our own areas to find the potential in Saxony, in Boxberg. We operate a power plant there and 2 coal mines close by. So that means we have already place available, we have space there. And very important, Philip mentioned it already, we have a grid connection to the 380 kV grid. So this is also a very important point available. And then a second point, this is more or less the soft facts. This is also an important point. We have the support of the people in the region. We have the support of the communalities around communities. And we have also the support of the federal state of Saxony and also the commitment of the federal state of Saxony. So these are important points. The other point is the technical point, why join forces with ESS. We made a market sounding last year. It was looking on the market to find the innovations, technical solutions with a storage capability above 8 hours. And for that, we defined some criteria for the selection. One was because I said at 2030, we want to be ready with a lot of things. So we need solutions now, ready to go to market, not to wait. That's the one criteria. The second was to look on the financing of the companies. The third point was the management. So we made a lot of experience. It's very important for scale up to have the right stuff on board. And then we was looking on the products too, technical data for sure, and also the raw material. This should be conflict or free of conflicts. And this was the criteria we selected. On the end of the day, we scouted more than 50 companies. The only remaining was ESS Inc., which was nearly fulfilling the criteria we defined before. And therefore, we decided to work close together with all the challenges we have. I think this must be clear for us. Predominantly, the innovations come from startups. And startups also in the phase before starting an industrial production are ready to go, but this takes time and a lot of money. And this is, I would say, the issue for first or early runners or movers to cope this challenge. And this is why we are also here to explain if we want to solve these topics, we need support. So we as LEAC are able and willing to put a lot of capital on this stage. But as early or first mover, there's a large gap for that. The other point, expanding to other regions, I think regions like us with coal-based or carbon-intensive industries have more or less the same situations. Usually large companies with a lot of employees, with social responsibility, mainly, I would say, the only one in the region who has the potential. And therefore is for sure our project also a blueprint for other regions. And not only in the technical approach, also I would say in the soft facts, transition for the region. What we learned also in the last time is that there's a very, very high interest of the existing industry there and also for new industries to come to these locations because we are producing green energy local and we can also use this green energy local. So this is also like a catalyzer for new companies. This on the end leads then to more interesting perspective for young people to stay there or to come in this region. And this is also helping the municipalities with more tax income and so on. So this is a model, I think, which could work in the tandem, a strong company with a startup.
Yeah, thank you very much for that explanation. And I think we all look forward to see what is going to happen in the future if it works out, how you have planned, and if it can be a blueprint for other regions as well. And that also links actually to very good to the next part of this panel, going a little bit to the challenges and barriers, because you already mentioned that it's already that's like one of the problems is like scaling up from new technologies to become market ready. And there I have another question to Mr. Offenberg. As you said, also like scaling up is key, and so what do you see as the biggest challenges in that regard, scaling up storage technologies, and how can we overcome them?
Yeah, I think there are very specific challenges to technologies that would be deployed for first time at large scale, like the ESS battery, right? I mean, the question who pays for the ramp-up cost. So LEAC would be the first ones to deploy this large battery, but of course this requires industrialization on part of ESS. So who's paying the premium for that? Is that the company? Is that the government? That's really a question of support instruments, and I think the situation in Europe is really that you have tons of support instruments. There's an innovation fund, there's a just transition fund, there's a the temporary crisis framework with state aid, approvals until 2025. There are the recovery plans. There's money from the EU. There's money in the member states. There's money in the regions, right? But the general feedback that we get from innovative companies, and that's from storage, that's from many other technologies, is it's very, very hard to access these pots of money. Yeah, it's rather complicated, and even if you get some sort of positive signal from a government, then there can still be the state aid authority at the commission that stops it or slows it down. So that's a whole big discussion of its own. and I think some people on the panel can say more about that from their own experience. And then there's, of course, the other, more classical energy policy discussion about how storage technologies fit into the electricity market design or not. So these are questions I don't know if everyone here is really an energy expert, but you have different electricity markets, so that these ancillary services where you balance the grid for short term. There are more long-term capacity markets in some countries. And there's, of course, the question, does a storage technology qualify for these? Yeah? So and I'm sure Alan will talk about this, energy storage technologies can provide a lot of benefits to the system. So voltage control, inertia provision, and black start, and many other things. But these services are not always remunerated because they're sort of taken for granted in a system that's based on thermal power plants, as it still is to a large extent in Europe. Right? So do we remunerate these services that storage provide? Another big related question is national tenders. So we just had the case in Italy where the transmission system operator Terna was opening a tender for storage technologies, but the definition that they applied was basically only allowing lithium-ion batteries and pumped hydro storage to apply. So two existing technologies. The way this tender was designed would have not allowed others, like perhaps ESS or Malta or many that we work with, to apply. I think they're in the process of fixing that in Italy, but there are many other tenders out there in member states where this needs to be taken into account. We still bizarrely have the situation that in some countries energy storage technologies are charged twice with grid charges. So when they store the electricity and when they discharge the electricity, actually according to the EU's rules since 2018, since the clean energy package, you should only be charged once with grid fees, but that's still not implemented everywhere. Same with taxes, there's lots of taxation. So I could go on and on and on, but I think these are mostly things that the Commission has A, noticed, and B, is trying to address through the current market reform that mentioned earlier, or perhaps also in the next batch. The Commission came with some quite good recommendations on storage earlier this year. So I'm quite hopeful on that. One last thing that I want to mention here is, and that goes actually back to the first question of who takes the risk for new technology. Some of you will have noticed there was a wind package today by the European Commission. I haven't read it yet, but the last version that was leaked last week included something that's called performance guarantees. And someone told me today it's still in the package. And the background to that is really wind, for instance, is a very capital-intensive sector. There are technology risks. And so sometimes there's the question who takes that risk, who takes the risk that a technology like a wind turbine really performs. And now in this wind package, the Commission has said, well, we will work with, I think it's InvestEU and the EIB, to make sure that commercial banks can actually take that risk and help these companies sell their products. And so that's the wind sector. But in fact, when we're talking about storage and other capital-intensive, costly technologies, such performance guarantees would also help a lot. So there's really here a plaidoyer to think about applying this instrument to other sectors as well, including energy storage.
Yeah, thank you. So it's not an easy environment to build up energy storage right now. So that would be my my link to Mr. Greenshields and your company. So, given that still on the rising area of action, but still, how come that you've chosen the EU as an investment hub and to replicate and scale up your technologies in that environment that is still a little bit challenging but getting better? And how do you see the potential for coal plus regions, and how do you think these challenges could be overcome?
Okay, well, thank you for inviting us to this interesting panel. On the question of why EU, right now we have a phase of extreme geopolitical uncertainty, unfortunately. And I think what's happening is you're finding that the US and Europe are finding they have more in common, and there's a lot more activity taking place in terms of collaboration about how to solve these problems together. The other element of that is getting onto the issue of which has been mentioned several times. I think the most important word today is for new technology is scale, because people have forgotten that lithium-ion batteries cost $2,500 a kilowatt hour 15 years ago, and now they cost 100, and the difference is scale. And I think getting to scale is a significant reason why we are wanting to work with LEAG on this, because LEAG is doing something quite unique. They actually have made the decision to go to 24/7 green energy without building natural gas powered turbines. I think we have to be honest with ourselves. Even in the high renewable economies, it's 30% renewables and 60% gas. And if you have any sincere wish to decarbonize, you need to replace that with a non-carbon solution. And if you run the numbers on that, it always comes out the same. You need short duration storage, you need long duration storage, and you need hydrogen, those three things. The middle piece, long duration storage, as Philip mentioned, technologically was not as advanced as lithium-ion for a simple reason. It's a new technology. Lithium-ion is a 30-year-old technology, where, let's not forget, in the intervening years, the Chinese have poured hundreds of billions of dollars with the sole goal of dominating the industry. So coming back to the point about why EU, I think it's remember who your friends are. We paid a very high price for having a huge dependency on gas. We will pay a horrible price for 100% dependency on imported solar panels, 100% dependency on importing Chinese batteries at some point in time. So we need these new technologies for another reason. Coming back to the point on coal, I would say it's all about money. Why do we have coal regions? Because coal was a very cost-effective way of generating electricity. It was a high energy material, and in the development of industrialization, it was really what drove industrialization at all, the availability of cheap energy. It's the same going forward. We need to have technological solutions that are no more expensive and potentially cheaper than conventional energy, otherwise it just won't happen. Any discussion which doesn't have the goal of making renewable energy cheap or cheaper than production from coal is destined to fail. And that's exactly where we are now. The generation side has been fixed. Solar energy, wind energy, cheapest source of electrons. If you can store the energy cheaply, the price of energy will not go up, it'll go down. And so my point on the coal regions is, coal regions, they have transmission lines, they've got lots of land, they have heavy industry taking it around there, so they're the perfect places to build these kind of energy hubs. And I applaud what LEAG are doing. They're the first we're aware of anywhere in the world who said we're going to do a true carbonless solution at gigawatt scale. And we've heard already what's being built in Saxony in Germany is about the same size as some whole countries. If that is successful, it is the blueprint, certainly for the high coal areas because they have the infrastructure, but basically for everything else too.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Schiller, do you have something to add on this?
Yeah, not so much to add. But Alan explained the most of the things. So for us, it's important. It's a good mix between German and US guys. So they are innovative. We are the engineers. So this is a perfect match.
Okay, thank you. So going a little bit back to Spain now. So you already also told us what are your plans in Galicia. So what are the challenges there with the energy storage implementation, and well, what kind of problems did you have to face or will still face in the future?
¿Podían poner la segunda diapositiva, si es posible, que envíe para que...
Can we show this slide again?
Correcto.
Yeah, here we go.
El principal reto, el principal objetivo de la implantación de energías renovables es reducir el uso de combustibles fósiles. Y eso tiene, lógicamente, dos ventajas. Por un lado, mitigar el cambio climático y, por otro, reducir la dependencia energética del exterior. Las renovables tienen un problema, como todos ustedes aquí ya conocen, y es que son intermitentes. Eso hace que no sean gestionables. Y el almacenamiento, como se ha dicho a lo largo de este panel por todos los relatores, es que es un factor clave. Es un factor clave para integrar energías renovables y para luchar contra el cambio climático. En Galicia, en las zonas de transición justa, estamos desarrollando dos tecnologías de almacenamiento que son las que mejor se adaptan a las características específicas de nuestra región. Por un lado es el bombeo reversible, donde en este momento tenemos ya en marcha dos proyectos, uno en la zona de la central térmica de As Pontes, con una capacidad de 250 megavatios y una inversión próxima a los 265 millones de euros, y el otro proyecto también de bombeo reversible en los terrenos de la central térmica de Meirama, una central de carbón. La capacidad de este proyecto es de 350 megavatios y con una inversión superior a los 300 millones de euros. Los dos proyectos tienen en común que aprovechan, bien como depósito superior o como depósito inferior, los lagos artificiales que se han creado en el hueco de la antigua mina de lignitos pardos. Además, estamos también desarrollando proyectos de hidrógeno verde. Como dije en la anterior intervención, Galicia tiene un elevado potencial de energía renovable, sobre todo eólica. Tenemos muchas zonas de nuestra comunidad autónoma con más de 3.000 horas efectivas de viento al año. Y lo que estamos en este momento trabajando son dos proyectos. Uno próximo a la central térmica de As Pontes, el H2 Pole, con una capacidad de 100 megavatios, que se va a escalar primero a 20 megavatios, en segunda fase a 50 megavatios y en tercera última fase a 100 megavatios, para generar del orden de 16.000 toneladas año de hidrógeno, y con una inversión próxima a los 160 millones de euros. Y el otro proyecto es el proyecto de Meirama, también próximo a la antigua central térmica, con una capacidad de generación de hidrógeno verde de 30 megavatios para producir 4.500 toneladas año y una inversión de 65 millones de euros. Ambos proyectos de hidrógeno verde han sido declarados proyectos industriales estratégicos. Son unos proyectos que, para tener esta declaración, necesitan cumplir unos requisitos mínimos de inversión y de generación de empleo, y esto al final tiene unas ventajas, y estas ventajas es que tienen prioridad de despacho en todos los organismos de la Administración a los que requieren sus permisos y autorizaciones. También se han reducido los plazos administrativos en todos los procesos de autorización y tramitación a la mitad, y estos proyectos tienen prevalencia sobre los planes generales de ordenación municipal, que tienen que adaptarse a estos proyectos. En cuanto a los principales retos y barreras, voy a citar solamente tres. El primero es que se necesitan inversiones en redes. Si no somos capaces de aumentar las inversiones en infraestructura eléctrica, va a ser imposible cumplir los ambiciosos objetivos de integración de energías renovables, y va a ser imposible cumplir la descarbonización de nuestra economía. Recientemente, la Agencia Internacional de la Energía decía que teníamos que invertir en el mundo el doble de lo que estábamos invirtiendo en redes eléctricas para cumplir estos objetivos. El segundo reto es que el mercado eléctrico y toda la regulación están diseñados para un sistema centralizado, para un sistema gestionable, donde el almacenamiento no tenía cabida. La integración de renovables hace que aparezca un nuevo actor, en este caso el almacenamiento, y necesitamos un marco regulatorio estable que facilite la integración del almacenamiento para conseguir un sistema eléctrico flexible y competitivo. Y el tercer reto que tenemos por delante es una integración sectorial de todo el sector energético. Si queremos sistemas Power to X, es decir, si queremos que con la electricidad fabricar combustibles verdes para sustituir los derivados del petróleo en el sector de generación de calor, en el sector del transporte y en el sector de calefacción, necesitamos políticas energéticas integrales. Y esto, lógicamente, es un proceso largo y complejo que, aparte de regulación, también va a necesitar fuertes inversiones para desarrollar, sobre todo, como he dicho, infraestructuras y también regulación.
Thank you also very much for that statement and yeah, on these challenges. And now back to Mr. Gramelis. How does it look like in Western Macedonia, in Greece? And we heard that we have that we need investment in networks in Spain. That is like a legislative framework that needs to be in place to kind of incentivize that development. How does it look like in your region?
Yeah, it's difficult, but also nice to sum up because all the information already given by the previous speakers is very close to what we are willing to do in Greece. I don't know if it is possible to have the slides again, the first slide.
I think so, yes.
So the challenges for us, it's legal framework that it's already mentioned, but also permitting. We heard about the example in Italy. It's quite similar situation in Greece because there will be open tenders, so it's nice to have this kind of experience and how a private company could compete and give an offer that is financially viable. And apart from the licensing, financing and related to infrastructure technology is important. All these energy storage technologies are very capital-intensive investments. So depending on the technology you want to invest, we must have the relevant instrument. It was correctly said that nobody wants to pay more for energy. So you must provide cost-effective solutions. So if this example in Germany succeeds, then a replicate in Greece or in Spain or wherever could be applied. Just to mention that, for example, for hydrogen, there was a study from IEA, and although there are a lot of announcements for new projects, only 4% of the projects are going to be realized in Europe. This means that the investors, they need some funding, and they expect for governmental support before going on. So the challenges we are going to have also in Greece and specifically in West Macedonia, we have the land, we have the infrastructure for the power grid, we may have the personnel, the labor, but we need innovative solutions. When you need innovation, you need more advanced solutions in energy storage technologies so that you can tackle with the problems of grid integration, of technical performance, and then to have new projects that can support their RES integration and their development. I don't know if we can go also in the second slide, because when talking about energy storage, we have also thermal storage. And as I told before, it is very important for the common people, because the people, for example, in West Macedonia, in Kozani, Ptolemaida, and Damidio, we have 450 megawatt thermal for district heating networks. And you can see on the right-hand side, on the upper part, we have the different solutions we are examining now through the EBRD study. And below, you can see the exchange with the water pumping system to provide hot water to the cities. So it is very important how you can move from the current situation of fossil fuels to a new era, a new situation where renewables could be examined, but not only that, storage is needed, and perhaps solar thermal storage with peat storage may be a viable option. But again, it comes to the cost, to the technical performance, and there needs to be a correct decision to evaluate the different technologies and to make the choice that is best feasible for the market.
Yes, thank you. That I think very sums up also problems that not only appear in Greece, but also for sure in other regions. Yes, and now we come to the end of that panel session, but we still will have time for questions from the audiences. Yes, so please, if you would like to raise a question to one of the panelists, feel free to raise your hands. Also online, if you still have questions, you can type it in the chat. If that not already happened. Yeah, we're looking forward to your questions.
There are two questions from the online audience.
Great.
So the first one is to Philip. It's can converting existing coal-fired thermal power plants to renewable thermal power plants with technology like molten salt, etc., save the existing energy jobs in those plants? And if yes, if this would be a game changer in Just Transition, and if the Commission can support this more through the Just Transition Fund and other support programs. And the second question is to Panos, and it says, you mentioned that Greece is studying thermal storage for the Western Macedonian coal plants. Can you elaborate a bit further? Thanks.
So I start? Okay. Maybe on the ESS battery, I don't know if that saves energy jobs. That's a question to the gentleman here. I think the Malta one would save jobs. It does require a turbine. It does require some of the similar equipment. I cannot give you a guarantee that every coal miner would find a new job there, but it seems that some of the components are reasonably similar to what is in a coal power plant, so that some of the jobs can be maintained. But it's of course a good point that I'll need to investigate further. The Just Transition Fund, I mean, to my knowledge, the projects that are in coal regions would usually try to get funding from the JTF. The question is, of course, yeah, how successful that is, how fast the timelines are, because we have to imagine the EU also has its climate goals until 2030. So with climate policy, we're put on a certain timeline that is quite ambitious, and that requires a lot of discipline of the companies that are implementing these projects. The question is, of course, if funding instruments like the JTF allow for that timeline to be executed properly.
Maybe I can add some things to the workforces and to the workplaces. What we are doing in LEAG is we have a cooperation with industrial sites around in the region, and we have currently more than 1,000 people which are requested for other industries which are coming in the region due to the fact that we are generating green energy in the next future. So, and this is a transition also from people, because we don't need the full number of people. At the moment we have 7,000 employees in LEAG. On the end, if we have the transition finished in 2040, then we need maybe 1,500. But the concept behind this brings additional workplaces in the region, and we see very, very much interest in the region to come there and to use the offers also from Saxony and Brandenburg. These are the federal states where we are. So, and at the moment, what I said, 1,000 requirements, and also there are programs for training and transition of these peoples. So this is a combination of the things, and this works very well.
Yeah, maybe following up on that question a little bit, has that already been starting so far? And yeah, is it like how's the outcome of that training processes? Because what we also hear a lot from the Secretariat side is that the training programs are there, but like how many people are actually in the end will be be able to be employed in these new opportunities, that's often like another part.
There are different programs. There are programs from the EU, for training programs. Then we have the programs on the federal states. And we have an own training center in LEAG, which is also used and embedded in these programs. So, and we train the people and bring them to the other companies. So we have clear requirements, what is needed, and then we are looking for that. So there's a lot of things, and also I think with the ASS there are some things, also for the installation of these large storage systems. So this brings jobs in the regions. So there are many, many things around. And at the moment, I think there's more request in the region for, I will say, young, qualified people than we have at the moment. So I think this is a different approach. We want not replace one-to-one, but we have the potential.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any more questions from the audience here, or also a new question online? I don't see any questions so far here. Then I would have another question. Or do you have another interest?
I think there was a question about the district heating systems in West Macedonia.
Oh, yes. Please answer to that one as well, if you can.
If we can show the second slide of the presentation, then we have 3 towns in Western Macedonia that they have district heating systems. One of them, it's operating with biomass. This is the Spanish, if we can have the Greek one. So we have a biomass heating plant, but then Kozani and Ptolemaida, 2 other main towns in West Macedonia, they are heated with heat coming from steam power plants from coal. So most of the plants are stopping or already have stopped operation. And so until 2028, it will be the last date for the last coal power plant to operate. And this means that we must find other solutions. At the moment, this is the only slide we can provide from the working team of this study by BRD, showing the solutions. On the upper part, you can see the different options we have. The transition phase is with gas, that there will be a CHP plant together with the last coal power plant that will provide the main load, together, of course, with the biomass plant. And all the systems of the 3 towns will be interconnected. And the idea is how you are going to gain, how are you going to cover the load coming from the last coal power plant, and then eventually from the natural gas-fired power plants. So there cannot be a single solution. We need to investigate the different options we have, including storage, but also renewables. And it can be only phased implementation of rest and test systems. So it cannot be done in one single day. It's needed more time to invest and make new investments. But also this is very sensitive in terms of capex, because it is very costly to replace all this capacity and operate with renewables or thermal storage.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Still looking in the crowd if there's more questions. Yes, please. Please introduce also yourself and your affiliation.
Thank you, Mags from WWF. I'm very struck that we have, for the first time here, an all-male panel this afternoon, and thank you for your very interesting inputs, and I find it very relevant to have, if you like, a slightly more technical discussion here, which is very educational. Just Transition also lays a lot of emphasis on inclusion and on gender inclusion and gender equal opportunities. So I'd be really interested just to hear your reflections on how the development of clean energy projects in Just Transition regions can contribute to gender equal opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah, who might be able to say something for that? Do you have in the reskilling program a special gender component for you?
I can tell a personal story. I have 3 daughters. One works in offshore wind, one works in sustainable agriculture, and one works in developing zero emissions aircraft. So I can just say, I think you don't need to ask us specifically. It's a question for society, but I think that the opportunities, I think if it, I mean, the reason I tell the personal story, there are 3 young women who are ambitious. They found great jobs doing good stuff. So I actually think the answer to your question is that everything happening in the sustainability space is creating new opportunities in interesting areas where new products need to be developed. And I think that certainly, at least in our case, the gender question was well answered.
Thank you very much. And also, yeah, I know also that there are some initiatives in Europe that are going in that direction. And apologize again that we have an all-male panel here. We're working on it. Okay. Any more questions from the round here? Otherwise, I also would have a question that derived from our meeting yesterday with the district heating working group, because there we actually wondered, as many regions have open pit coal mines, lignite mines often, we were wondering, are these as the legacy of coal mining, could that be also an asset for energy storage development? Could you use these like big holes in the ground to have some kind of innovative storage solution there? Are you aware of anything in that regard?
Sometimes good ideas, but it's not so easy because there are legal frameworks long-term for the recultivation of these areas. So this is already binding. And then you have technical constraints. You need the pressure in the holes. And therefore you cannot use. So there are different ideas also for the carbon CSS or whatever you can do to use it, or for pump storage, hydro pumps, but this is not so easy. What we can do, and what we are doing, is using these areas because they are free of conflicts for wind and for solar fields. But the holes is quite complicated, so therefore we fill up with water this area, so the holes, because then they have the pressure what is needed. Simple.
I think the interesting point is, in most areas you need both electricity and heat, and things which are being looked at are basically how to make the overall efficiency the best. And a hydrogen electrolyzer produces a lot of waste heat. Depending on the storage technology, it also produces waste heat. And I think that the future is just simply to make the best use of both components, and there's nothing new about that. I mean, that's what that's why it's like that to start with. The coal-fired plant produced a mixture of electricity and heat, and I think going forward, the new technologies support that too.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Maybe this is one of the developments that we might present in the future here. I think, looking at the time, we need to wrap up. I think, yeah, that was a very interesting panel and a lot of insight into this vibrant field of energy storage development. And even though there's still a lot going on, we hope that we can see some implementation soon. For final remarks, I would like to invite Veronique Marx on stage from DG Energy for some conclusions. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Janet, and very nice to meet you all and be here today. I haven't really prepared conclusions to this panel, which is a very interesting panel, and as also the representative from WDF was saying, was very informative to have a technical discussion here today on such an important technology for the energy transition. And let's hope that the energy transition will also be just and a fair transition with a good gender balance and lots of job opportunities also for ambitious young women. But I'm just also following up here on the introduction that was given by Deputy Director General Mechil Verstefa, and I'm pleased to introduce here Mr. Kulhanek, the Governor of the Karlovy Vary coal regions of the Czech Republic. Mr. Kulhanek will present a statement that a number of coal regions representatives developed together in the framework of the annual political dialogue of the Coal Regions in Transition initiative in June in Karlovy Vary. The initiative, as well as also the platform here today, has been able to shape a strong community of coal plus and carbon intensive regions in their united efforts to phase out fossil fuels and to decarbonize their economies while strengthening their societies. the European Commission, while not signing this statement, is very pleased about the initiatives and welcomes these bottom-up initiatives. So I'm giving the floor here to Mr. Kulhanek to introduce the content of the statement. Thank you.
Good late afternoon. I'm very happy to be here after the successful annual political dialogue held in Karlovy Vary this June. The dialogue had, I think, main conclusion we can screen on the screen. Yeah, definitely the three important outputs we were discussing there, that the transformation of the European energy system for fulfilling the European Union's goals is taking place right now. We also were discussing that the coal regions in Europe are very diverse. And there is also important output that the transition of these coal regions is far from complete, and we will need the institutional and financial support far beyond 2027. Therefore, I'm very happy that we were able to compose a statement, which the content you can see here, which can help us to strengthen the position of the coal regions, which can strengthen the dialogue and communication among the coal regions. And can we go to the next screen? Yeah. And we will also be a strong partner for EU stakeholders. We will start an early dialogue to discuss either the ongoing transition right now with the lessons learned approach, and also to start a dialogue what should be after this programming period, after 2027. We were happy to find out that the statement was very positively evaluated by the regions, and we were, can we go next? We were able to call for 22 coal regions from 11 countries which were agreed to sign the statement. Can we have the next screen? Yeah. And the next screen as well. Yes. I will not read them all. Maybe just to name the countries: Czech Republic, Poland, Greece, Germany, Spain, Bulgaria, Romania, Slovenia, Finland, Ireland, and Slovakia. 22 coal regions are now forming the family of coal regions. And I'm very happy that we will have the opportunity to sign, not all of them, but some of them in presence right here after this session, with my colleagues from Czech Republic, Poland, and Slovenia. And I would definitely like to thank very much to Kadri Simpson, Commissioner Kadri Simpson and Commissioner Elisa Ferreira and their teams for the support. And also I would like to thank to the organizers of this event to make possible to signing in presence the statement. I think the statement is one small step for each region, but a very giant leap for the whole coal regions family. Thank you very much. I would like now to invite the signatories, if we can move to the room next to this hall. And also I would like to announce the cocktail for all of you, which is prepared in the next room. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay. Yeah, and so please continue to the next room. Also, one addition: it's of course it wasn't to blame this round for the for being all male panel. This is on us as secretariat. We'll be better. So please, the statement will be there, and cocktail is out for everyone. Thank you.